So today we're here with Confianz's guru of Odoo, Vinod. He's been with the Confianz for the last 14 years. Vinod, can you tell us a little bit about your time here with the Confianz and Odoo?
Yeah, so you said I've been with Confianz for the last 14 years. Initially, when I started, it was like Odoo. It wasn't Odoo at that time. It was actually used to call Open ERP, which was a completely community-driven system, like an open source community-driven system, which was like version 5 or something. That's when I started, and then it's a long journey. Open ERP renamed or rebranded to Odoo. They now have an enterprise and a community version. So yeah, it's a long journey. Odoo or Open ERP improved quite a lot from what it was. I would say they have the best UI from an ERP standpoint of view, and some of the really cool features as well. Yeah. So yeah, the journey is great. Journey with Confianz is like we started like one person working in Open ERP team, and now we have like more than 60 people working just on the Odoo project. So yeah, it's quite a bit of growth.
So you mentioned 2 different versions of Odoo. Can you elaborate on those for us?
Yeah. So basically, Odoo have 2 branches, if I could use that word. One is called the community version, which actually comes free of cost, and the limitation is like the UI looks completely different than the other version is actually called enterprise. So community and enterprise. So community is a minimalistic version, you could say, which comes free of cost. The UI is kind of okay. Limited set of features. There is not much integrations. All the basic modules are there though. But enterprise is the best when it comes to features. It got everything you want, all the modules. Then it comes with a support system. So you get support from Odoo, like if there is any security patches or anything, you're gonna get it free of cost. And one of the cool thing with enterprise is like when you're actually having a version upgrade, like any ERP system you're using, you have to be updated, right? So you have to upgrade into the newest versions and all that. So if you have an enterprise license, if you're paying for it, you actually get the database or your data migrated free of cost to the new version. So that's an additional perk. And then I would say the enterprise Odoo is something which got the best UI. Again, I'm going to emphasize on that thing because I try different ERPs and all that, but from a usability standpoint of view, I think to train your employees to use a system, it's so smooth in terms of how it's aligned, how the navigation, all that stuff. Yeah, it works just like your mobile app.
How long does it typically take a company to adapt and adopt when they implement with Odoo? You talk about user and friendliness.
Yeah. So see, it actually depends on what all departments you're actually onboarding into Odoo, because usually sales, accounting, those departments adapt into Odoo very easily. I would say in a couple of weeks maximum. And then there'll be questions and all that, but the adaptability into the new system will be like 2 weeks. But if you're implementing it in your warehouse or manufacturing or somewhere, it's going to take more time. I would say a month probably, because those are the areas in a business who's not so familiar with systems and all that, and they may have some legacy systems and they're using it. So if you're throwing a modern system into them, it takes some time for them to getting used to. So I would say accounting, sales, purchase in a couple of weeks. Anything else which goes into warehouse, manufacturing, all those sort of things, you have to count for a month.
How does Confianz prepare for the training and that implementation and after implementation?
Gotcha. So basically, I would say it's a long process. It's not like we take 2 weeks and say here is your system and start using it. So when we start a project, I'm not getting into the requirement analysis part of it since we are talking of onboarding. So when we actually start a project, we actually define the different phases. There'll be development phases, there'll be QA phases, there'll be implementation phases and all that. And throughout this project life cycle, we'll actually have a live conversation going with our customers. So let's call it as a weekly status call. This is something which we do with all our customers. And when we are actually doing that, you'll actually have the developers who's working in your project. There will be the QA person who is working in that project. There will be your trainer who will eventually going to train you into the system. So all these parties will be there in that weekly call. And we invite all the department heads into those sort of meetings. If they're not available, at least one person from the customer side who's going to be the point of contact for us. And then in each of the status meeting, I wouldn't say every week, but every 2 weeks or something, we actually give them a walkthrough of what we did so far. It kind of acts like a training, like informal training, if we could, use that word. So it's not like the customers are introduced into the system at the last moment. They are actually seeing it as we are doing it, right?
Okay.
It actually helps us because when we actually get into the final training phase, they already know the system. They already know like 60% of the workflow. So now all they need to do is just get into a proper training setup and see how that thing works in one go. So that's the first part of it. That is the weekly status meetings and the walkthrough which we are giving for the system. And then when it's time to get into your UAT, which stands for user acceptance testing, which is something which I'll recommend for all customers to do. And when we get there, we will actually provide a training based on your size, based on the type of and number of modules we're using. We will have a dedicated trainer who will work with you and who will actually put on some of your data, because no matter how you design your system for your employees, if you don't have your data, your products, your customers, it's difficult for them to connect, right? If you are actually showing a textile product into a computer manufacturer, they're not going to connect it. It may be the same module, same workflow, but they're not going to get it. So we make sure their products are added and they train with their data. So that's the final training process. And there is one more step to it, the UAT, which I mentioned earlier. That is also going to be more of a training, because during the UAT, all these employees are going to use the system. So UAT is not just for identifying issues. UAT is also about make sure you're comfortable with the system. If you're not following anything, put it as a ticket to us and say, okay, I don't know how to go from sales to invoice, right? It's not an issue, but it's not something which you're not following. So clear those things also in your UAT. That's why I said UAT is a critical part of any project. So once you go through those 3 steps, that is your status meetings, your official training, and then your UAT, I would say most of your users will be very familiar with using the system, because again, I go back to that UI thing which I mentioned. All the modules is aligned in the same way. Functionality could be different, but the alignment of the system is kind of same. So if you follow one module, right, if you are actually from sales department and you actually follow how to use the system, navigate the system, you can actually train the other people, even if they are not from your department. At least the basic navigation, you can actually train them. So there is another program as well, which is like train the trainer. So if not employees can make it into our official training session, we'll actually identify 1 or 2 or maybe more people from the customer side, and we'll actually train them. And we'll actually equip them to train other people in the business, right? So train the trainer is another program which we do. So they can have an internal person who can actually coordinate all that thing internally without Confianz help, which is something I would say, even if you are directly training the end customers, like everyone in your business, I would say identify one person as a trainer internally, because that's going to help you, because you're not going to stop with the current set of employees. You're going to recruit. You're going to add more people. So there'll be more people coming in. So you need someone who can actually train them, as a part of your onboarding or, induction process. So yeah, so training is one of the most important thing in, when it comes to your ERP implementation. No matter, like, even if you're actually having the best system in the world, even if you're having the best implementation partner in the world, if you're not training your people how to use a system, I would say that implementation is a failure, because nobody is going to use it even if, even if everything that you need is there. So yeah, it's good that you actually brought in that point. So training is one of the most important, uh, part of a ERP implementation. Yeah.
You mentioned Odoo's expansiveness a little bit there with talking about the modules and how their integration. I know that there are a lot of modules and you can kind of get them all at once. How does a customer know, or a business owner know, what modules they need to pull in?
Okay.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So see, that question is indirectly asking, why do you need an implementation partner, when you're choosing Odoo? Because when you actually go into Odoo's website and all that, you can actually see all sort of modules, name it like sales, accounting, and everything which you need for all the businesses. But there is like project management, there is like, quality assurance, there is like manufacturing, there is project management, timesheet, HR, lot of stuff, even point of sales. So do you really need all those modules? Probably not, right? Not all businesses needs all these modules. And Odoo as a system is designed in a way, see, one of the great pluses of Odoo is like, it is designed in a generic fashion. It's not an ERP built for a particular industry. It's an ERP built for everyone, I would say. That's a big plus. But it's a minus as well, because you needs to be very careful when you're implementing Odoo into your businesses, like what you need and how you want these modules to be connected. So all these modules could probably connect to a department, or how different departments are actually talking to each other. These are all these modules, right? Or maybe some integrations as well. So identifying those modules is a key thing. So my recommendation is like, if you are actually looking at Odoo, make use of an Odoo partner who knows Odoo, who have experience implementing Odoo in a similar business than you, and make them pick those modules based on your business requirements.
Okay. So when I go to work with a partner, what kind of questions should I be asking them?
Okay. So see, the first question will definitely be, have they implemented a similar sort of industry business compared to you? And if possible, talk to that, to the other party where this partner implemented an Odoo for. That's going to give you a better picture of, the experience of these guys. And then I would say, when you are actually talking to Odoo partners, make sure they are actually asking the right questions in terms of, it's not about the questions you ask, it's more about how the questions they are asking. If they are only asking things like, your number of users, your transactions and all that, those are actually high level questions which almost all the partners will be asking. But if they are asking right questions about your business flows, if they are actually following what your business is, that means it's a right fit for you. And then obviously, you have to talk about the pricing point of it. See, pricing is one side of it. There is another one called the duration. You want to make sure you fix a timeline for your project, and your partner can actually deliver those, those projects on time. Make sure they are providing training. Make sure they're going to give you a good UAT, time period. And most importantly, an ERP system is more like, if you are actually building an app or something, you build everything that goes live and that's it, But ERP is your day-to-day thing, which means you need a support, long-term support from your partner. So can they do it? And what are their support agreements or different sort of support plans they have? Go through it, make sure they can actually support you, and most importantly, make sure that they have like in-house talented developers. Most of the time, what I see is like there will be, I'm not calling partners, but there may be someone who's implementing Odoo, but they just take projects and outsource it to someone, or use freelance developers or something. it's all good, but when it comes to an ERP system, it's all about how your data is connected throughout the system. So you need a team who can actually work on it, who knows all those different areas. And most importantly, I would say they have some experience working with the accounting module, right? That's one of the toughest part, I would say. You can have someone who knows sales, purchase, and all that, but when it comes to accounting, you need experience. You need experience working in those things. You need experience working with the people who deal with bookkeeping, accounting, tax filing, and all that. So their expertise in accounting is a key for you. Whether you're going to use accounting or not, check it out if they have worked on the accounting side of things. If they have, it's a plus, because if they have, that means most probably they know almost all the modules in Odoo. So yeah.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed part 1 of Unlocking Odoo. Join us next time for part 2, where we'll be exploring how Odoo compares to QuickBooks.